The tallest NBA players. There's few traits as tied to basketball players as height. It makes plenty of sense thanks to how vertical the sport is, and because of this, some of the most recognizable players in NBA history are also some of the tallest ones. From Manute Bol to Yao Ming, in this video we'll talk about some of the tallest players in NBA history. Chuck Nevitt. For this player on our list of the tallest in NBA history, we have to head back a number of years to the 80s. Chuck Nevitt came into the league then in 1983, and while he isn't the most famous player on this list to the average person, he does hold the title of tallest player to win an NBA championship. The others ahead of him on this list are famous in their own right, but they didn't walk away with rings. Nevitt, on the other hand, was part of a championship Lakers team in 1985. He was hardly part of the Lakers' victory that year, however, as he only appeared in one game of the finals and had a total of 2 minutes played. That's a pretty big gap from the top performers on that team, but let's face it, most people aren't going to bother to look up the statistics for themselves and find out that fact. Big playing time or not, Nevitt is still the tallest player that actually has a ring. His height was listed at 7'5", which puts him above the vast majority of players to step foot in the NBA, even if there's still others ranked above him on the tallest players list. As far as actual playing time, Nevitt's 2 minutes of action in the finals pretty much tell the story. He didn't play very much, finishing with less than 18 full games worth of minutes. With that being said, Nevitt was still able to spend a good 10 years bouncing around different teams inside and outside of the NBA. Yao Ming. Yao Ming is one of the most famous players in the history of the league for multiple reasons. Not only is he one of the tallest players in the league's history at 7'6", but he also played a big part in bridging the gap between the United States and China in the sport of basketball. He started his career in the Chinese Basketball Association, and his rise and jump to the NBA helped boost the popularity of the league and made the sport more respectable in general in China. Yao's height played a big role in the NBA's interest in him as a prospect coming out of the CBA. He averaged 20 rebounds per game during his last playoff run with the Shanghai Sharks before being selected number 1 overall by the Houston Rockets, and his massive height almost certainly played a role in his ability to register monster statistics like that. His height also played into injury problems, however, and Yao had to deal with a number of bone fractures throughout his career that eventually resulted in his retirement. Even so, his impact on the game led to him making the Hall of Fame regardless, and he's also regarded as having one of the biggest impacts in growing the game in China. Shawn Bradley. Out of the players on this list, Shawn Bradley is the one that played in the highest total number of games. Bradley stands at 7'6" and had 832 total games played in the NBA with the Sixers, Nets, and Mavericks. Bradley also had an interesting background as he was born in West Germany, where his father was working for the US military. He's not the only great NBA big man to have that background, as the famous Shaquille O'Neal was also born in Germany for the same reason. Bradley was actually raised in Utah, however, and grew to 7'5" by his junior year in high school. He was also raised as a Mormon, which affected his college decision and influenced him picking BYU. He had a successful college career there and was able to get on the radar of NBA scouts, but interestingly enough, took a 2-year leave of absence from the school to serve as a missionary. After entering the draft upon his return, he was selected with the 2nd pick. Bradley didn't exactly have the numbers you'd expect of a top 2 pick throughout his entire career, but interestingly, he did come through in the blocks department with 2.5 blocks per game. Also, just remaining in the NBA from 1993 to 2005 is a pretty good accomplishment in its own right. Manute Bol. Known as the tallest player to play in the NBA, the 7'7" Manute Bol towered over others in the league and even other big men. Bol was also another important international player in the history of the league, having been discovered in Sudan by coach Don Feely and convinced to go to the United States to play. Before Bol was ever able to get into the NBA, he had some unique problems thanks to his upbringing in Sudan. For one, he didn't know the language very well, and there were also concerns that his birth date might not actually have been his listed one. There's more theories these days that Bol might have been much older than his listed birth date indicated, and that he could have been playing college basketball in his 30s. Bol was originally drafted by the Clippers in 1983, but the NBA invalidated the pick because he hadn't declared for the draft within the right time frame to follow league rules. He'd have to head back to college, where he played for Division II school Bridgeport. However, he was able to take English classes while there and was able to make it into the NBA after a brief stint in the USBL Spring League.
Manute with another.
In the NBA, Bol only averaged 2.6 points per game, but his record-breaking 3.3 blocks per game across his career goes to show the kind of advantage that comes from having an absolutely massive height like Bol did. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more.